Today, I am so excited because we have Jenny Meinen on the podcast today. She is a German psychologist, coach, and she specializes in self-love and relationships. And I had the opportunity to meet this lovely soul at a wedding of a mutual friend of ours. And we instantly connected. And I was dying to have her on the podcast because she is so knowledgeable. She shares so much on her Instagram about self-love and relationships. And there's just so much insight that you have of being a psychologist. And I wanted to talk about that. So today we are going to focus on what is love, the psychology of love, and putting yourself out there, because it's not always easy to do for us single ladies, you know. And I think that you can really give single women a hand in and some ideas in how to go through life if they're feeling stuck in relationships, if they're feeling fed up with the men of 2024.
Preach.
So let's talk about when we first met.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm so grateful that we met last summer.
Mm-hmm.
We met at, one of my best friend's wedding. And it was just beautiful to see that she feels so content and happy and feels like she found a home in the man that she was getting married to. So that was wonderful.
And with the what is love, you just said finding a home. And that just did something to me, because to me, when I think about the people that I love the most in my life, my family included, my best friends, I do feel like they are home. I don't have to, I feel the most comfortable, I guess.
Yeah. In
that way. And when you're finding a partner, that is something I look for. And so when I think about what is love to you, if you were to define it to you, but also in the psychologist term?
So that's so interesting, because I feel like everyone has a different definition of love in so many ways.
Yes.
Because love is not only romantic love that we experience with a partner, but love is also the feeling that we have with our family, the unconditional love we give to a child, the love and appreciation that we have for nature and animals, and just ultimately love is also the oneness that we have with the universe and feeling interconnected with every single human being.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So that's to you your definition, or that is scientifically it's more, right?
I think it both overlaps in a way, right? As I said, there's different definitions of love, I believe, and in the realm of especially seeing and giving love in romantic relationships, I think for me personally as well, love is not only a feeling, but also something that is an action that is shown over time.
Yes. Okay. So I heard this thing, and I can't remember where, in one of the thousands of relationship books that I've read, love being a noun, but also a verb.
Exactly.
I can say I love you, but am I showing it?
Yeah.
Is there a specific thing that you look for and or that you tell your clients they should look for in a partner?
Yeah. I think one of the most important things that we mistake often when we look for a partner is that we're more focused on chemistry versus compatibility. So I think one of the most fun things I worked with a client through recently was seeing that a man that she was really interested in and that she liked, and that I would almost say was, crushing over him, to see, I was like, okay, I want you to make a list of the man of your dreams that you want to spend the rest of your life with, that you want to be with. What are his qualities? What are his qualities, right? Is he kind, compassionate, consistent, calm? How is he? And besides that, also, how does he make you feel, right? So the moment we made this list, she saw that he was actually not fulfilling the needs of, and the things that she wanted in a man, versus she just got kind of caught up in the chemistry, caught up in hitting, having this dopamine hit from them playing this cat and mouse game in the beginning of dating, right? That we often are so addicted to, like, oh my God, we can't have them. And then all of a sudden you get, a little bit of them, and then it feels like it's love, or you really like them. But if you really take a moment and see, are they actually meeting the things that I want in a partner? And then also seeing, and I think this is, if you take one thing away from today, it's this: I want everybody to value consistency and connection over time, right? Not over someone promising you what you want. A man will ask you what you want and what you're looking for, and they will literally morph into that version to be with you, to impress you, to sleep with you, whatever that is, right? So there's a lot of short-term actions people, and especially men, can take to impress you, and say whatever you want to hear. But like seeing over consistent time that there is consistent action and integrity with their words, I think is one of the most important things when it comes to choosing a partner.
A lot to unpack there. A lot to unpack. All right. So chemistry versus compatibility. I feel this way personally, where I will meet someone who is maybe more compatible, but the chemistry is like, and obviously I think that chemistry can build, and I have had other relationships where chemistry has built.
Yeah.
Whereas the compatibility, it's like either we're on the same page or we're kind of not.
Yeah.
And not saying that compatibility can't build, but it might take some other things for that to happen, right? But can't we have both? Like, am I supposed to be looking for both? Like, what do you, like, I mean, I know when I really feel drawn to a person, I'm sure that's chemistry, right?
Yeah.
But how do I, after having chemistry with so many people and it not working out, and also having compatibility with people and just the chemistry just wasn't like hitting?
Yeah.
One, do we choose? Two, do we hold out until we just get both and we have both?
Yeah.
What do you think?
So it's funny. First of all, I absolutely believe that we can have both.
Okay.
Girl, you can have it all. I absolutely believe that.
Okay, good.
And
hence why I'm still single.
It's interesting too, though, because here's the part of why I, obviously in my profession too, but why I emphasize doing the inner work, because sometimes we're attracted to pattern that recreate chaos. If we grew up in chaos and love didn't feel safe, love didn't feel predictable, love didn't feel like a constant thing in your life, we choose to recreate those patterns until we actually look inward. And it's funny because I know a lot of people that will consciously say, no, I had that when I was younger, and that's why I'm trying to find something that's the opposite. But until we kind of look what we subconsciously are creating as a pattern, and when you're saying like, well, I'm saying I want healthy, calm, nice love, but it's just never showed up, and we tend to recreate the opposite, then it's because you're being led by your subconscious. So I do think like rewiring your brain in ways that healthy love is not boring and healthy love is good is the first step. That's super important. And then there's one example that I love referring to is when you think about your best friend. So sometimes people meet friends and they're instantly like, oh my God, this is going to be my best friend for life. But often when you meet those friends, think how often those burn out after a couple months, right? When you're like, oh my God, me and that girl, we get along so well. And then you have the whirlwind of friendship and it just fizzles out. Yeah. And then think of the fact that sometimes when you have best friends that you've been friends with for years or even decades, you didn't meet them the first time and you were like, that's going to be my best friend for life. You built a relationship together. You over time were consistent. You over time like learned to really enjoy each other's company and do things together and go through ups and downs. And they became your best friend, right? And I love seeing and giving sometimes partners that you like and that you have good compatibility with the same chance as you would give a best friend.
Okay, you said compatibility. So that's what we really need to be looking for when we're going on these dates. Yeah. Less the chemistry.
Less the chemistry, more compatibility. Yes, 100%.
Okay, so let's say I've done the work. I've been working. I hate to say the work because it's like, babe, we never gonna be done with this work.
No, right? Promise, we'll never.
We're never gonna be done with this work. This work is a lifelong journey of the work, right? You fight through one thing and then something else comes up, and it's exhausting for sure. But when you look back, and I always say this like to my sister, when you look back at the person you were before you started the work,
Yeah.
what? Like, my emotional bank account is stacked. Okay? Like, I am rich. Okay? I
love that analogy.
I'm literally rich because she's been working, right?
Yeah.
But let's say we're doing the work
Mm-hmm.
and we're going on dates and we are being intentional and we're not letting no fuckboys near us. Okay?
Yeah.
We're not.
I love it. I'm
no.
here for it.
Yep. But you get to that point where you're like, and my second episode, I have Britt Frank on. She wrote a book, The Science of Stuck. And I asked her this too, because I always want to know the perspective of the professionals. I don't like anybody. I didn't did so much work. Nobody, like, no. It's so hard to really like someone. So now you find yourself leaning into that chemistry because you're like, oh, I feel something.
Yeah.
I haven't felt something in a really long time. I'm feeling something. And then, as you said, it fizzles out. So if someone's feeling stalled and they're feeling like, I just want to sit at home and go on my apps and swipe and swipe and swipe and meet and meet. And you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But this feels mundane. What would you say that person needs to do? Go back in, or it's still that self-work, or?
Well, a couple things.
Okay.
First of all, my question is, how often have you give someone a chance or a second date or multiple dates that you actually, as you said, felt like they would be a good match but didn't feel that instant chemistry with?
All right.
So like seeing maybe...
So how many, you think?
How many men to give a chance?
No, meaning like how many dates?
Yeah.
Compatible?
Ooh, okay, that's a good question.
Like, like 3 dates before you fuck. People say that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm not saying that that's what I do. I'm just saying that that's like a rule that certain people have, right?
Yeah.
So is there a guideline? Obviously, everything's different. Everyone's different. If he, it's smelly or something, maybe don't go on another date with him. But, you know.
I do think if you really say, hey, this person is not my jam, and even though they, we're compatible, I don't want to be with them, I wouldn't say you have to go on a second date. But if you have a little bit of curiosity, be like, I like that person, but I don't really feel, like they're the one right now, and they're not giving me this dopamine cocktail. I do think going and exploring for a couple dates is very helpful. Just to kind of see how, let's say...
I'm looking for a number,
You know what?
Jamie.
Let's say 3 to 4.
3 to 4.
Yeah, that's what I would give someone, 3 to 4 dates. And then another thing I think that's really helpful, if you feel stuck in that way and you say when you say things get mundane, switch it up. Like, we get so laser focused on what we do and what we think are the possibilities for us in the dating world and how we meet people. Is I want you, every time you want to create something new, switching up a new behavior and a pattern is so helpful. Like disrupting it with doing something you've never done before. Like, joining a tennis club, right? Like starting a new hobby, going out to places where you potentially could meet someone, talking to friends that might have friends that could set you up with, and like thinking outside of the box versus like, oh my God, I can just go on the app, swipe, they're all the same. But like, think outside of the box. There are options that are possible that you just have not considered yet. But it's more about like opening yourself up to it and getting out of that energy of it's not working. Right? But more like, not saying you have to be the most positive, like, it's going to be amazing, but more like, I'm opening myself up to new possibilities of creating love in my life.
Yes. That's great advice. That's really great advice because, like, go ahead, girl, join that country club. Ask your friends. I will say that friends, I think, sometimes are the best way to go to get matched with someone, being open to that. That's great. Switch it up. Also, by the way, my girlfriends and I do this all the time. So for anyone listening, I know it's crazy. I know it's scary, but like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Nothing. They'll say no. Go to a bar, a cute bar or lounge, whatever place you go, and play truth or dare with your girlfriends and dare them to go up to a guy and be like, hey, whatever, just spark up a conversation. When it becomes a game, it, like, for me, I am competitive. So it's like,
takes out the charge.
Yeah. Okay, girl. And I'm such a dare girl. Truth, whatever. Boring. No. Give me the dare. And so I remember once my girlfriend told me to go up to this guy because we all thought he was cute. And I didn't know what to say to him. And now this is my line, and I'm going to share with my listeners. This is my line. Have we met? Wait. Have we met? And they're always like,
how did that go?
They're always like, I don't think so, but hi.
Yeah.
That is the best, because then it's not like, are you single? And then he's not single and he's married, and then you're walking away like with the tail under you know what I mean? Like you're like, So it's just a nice way, especially if you live in a big city like New York, because maybe we have. I don't know. I've seen somewhere before. Wait, what?
Yeah.
So it's a nice way. It's a nice icebreaker. So ladies, go and do that next time you see a man. And if he's like no, and he's like not giving you the energy, bye. But if he is giving you no, but hello, I am Michael. Michael, I'm Natasha.
I love that. I love that.
Because I'm really very, very, very much against the going up to a guy. I'm so against it.
It's so funny because I am too. Like, I love this, and I love this for you if you're that type of woman and has that confidence to walk up to it. I always admire that in women. I'm more like I'm trying to speak with my eyes and giving you an invitation to talk to me.
Same. Now, can we talk about that? Now, it's not that I don't have the confidence, because I feel like I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I'm like a green tea. Most people like me. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you're not for everyone.
Yeah.
So I don't feel that way. It's more so every guy that I have went for or made an effort more so to date or talk to or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
This was the duration. This was our relationship. It was me planning dates. It was me figuring out where we're going. It was me hitting him up. It was me. I don't do that. But when a guy comes up to me, he's like, hey, how are you? And they are putting in their effort, then that's the trajectory of the relationship, at least for me. And I'm the type of person, I love a creative man. Get creative. Where we going? What we doing? I don't know. I don't care. I want to strap in, buckle up. Everyone thinks, it's funny because a lot of my friends, they think I want to run things because of my life, my job, whatever, because I'm like, I'm not that way, baby. Where we going? Let's go.
I love it. It's funny because it sounds like, a lot of women, especially that are successful and that are independent, they get stuck in masculine energy, right? Masculine energy is more the planning energy, the logical, the, like direct approach. That's being in the doing energy, right? The feminine energy is the receiving energy.
Yes.
Right? And I think it's interesting because as women, as you said, we have to learn to really, when we're normally used to taking charge, to really let go and have a man take charge, right? I'm not saying like a man takes charge of my entire life, but I mean more like, as you said, in the planning process.
Yes.
And, like being courted and like letting yourself be in the feminine when you're in the dating process. So I love that.
Yep.
Love that.
Yep. I have an episode with Serena Kerrigan, and we talk all about feminine and masculine energy, and it's so true. But I will say, when you are a woman, and I'm speaking to my listeners who you got everything together, you a badass bitch, you do everything, you walk into the room, you are the light, you are the sun, you are all of it. You have to meet a man that you trust his vision. And for me, everyone's like, oh, why are you single? I'm so blessed to know so many very amazing people. I do think I can do this more efficiently or better than a lot of people, right? It's my own brain, right? I think a lot of people who are accomplished or have done a lot, worked a lot, did a lot, whatever you want to call it, feel that way. I went to school full time. I went to work full time. I am so boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
But so it's harder to find a guy who I do want to just say, okay, go ahead, baby. And every guy, I will confidently say, every man that I have dated and that was my boyfriend, I fully trusted their vision for their life and for us. And when we would go places or when they would plan things, like, okay, great.
Yeah.
But is a woman wasting her time by dating a man where she doesn't fully trust the vision, and move on, find a guy that that you do trust the vision, or a lot of times you can cultivate a relationship with someone who isn't quite at that mental capacity level that you are.
That's such a good question. It's interesting too, because you're mentioning two different things with mental capacity and, where they're currently at with their life in business and maturity.
Yes.
I do think a lot of women make the mistake to play Barbarella the Builder and end up trying to build up an entire man, put all their effort and energy into them, and then, for them to either then not end up with them building the perfect man for the next woman, or, putting all their energy and love and dedication into someone and then seeing that they will revert to old patterns. So I do think caution when you see a man, where you're like, oh, he would be good, but he just has to, kind of get his shit together.
Call me when your shit is together.
Huh?
Like you say, like, call me when your shit is together.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I like you, but.
Yeah, so here's the thing, but there are exceptions. If you meet a man who's genuine, kind, generous, loving, and you see he has potential and he's focused on the right values and he's just not 100% where they want to be, which is totally normal when you date. I do think you can give that person a chance if you have a good connection with them. If you see that everything aligns and it's going in the right direction. I do think that.
Wow.
I don't think we should only date people that are fully done, but however, really seeing with caution, depending on what their values are, right? And how they're approaching things, if they're actually following through with where they're trying to go.
So let's say there's a scenario of a girl who is actively in therapy. She's on her journey, her work journey.
Healing girl era.
Yeah, her healing girl era. She's there. She meets a man. He's like, therapy? What's that? Like, a lot of guys are anti. I'm generalizing here, obviously, but there are certain men that are anti-therapy, not because they don't believe in it. It's just like, I'm not crazy. Why would I go to therapy? They don't get that. They don't get that it is a muscle, the mental capacity. It's a muscle like everything else. You will go to the gym, you work out your brain, you go to therapy. It's a tool in the toolbox.
Totally.
If this guy needs it, like, I can't help you with this problem. You need to go to therapy.
Yeah.
And they are open to receiving that information versus not open to receiving that information. But the chemistry's there. They're a nice guy. They come from a nice family. How do we navigate that? And I'm actively on my healing girl journey.
Yeah. It's interesting because I have mixed feelings and reviews about this, because on the one hand, I do think it's so important that a man is, introduced to the personal growth world and does the work and goes to therapy and really, has sat down with his patterns to really be able to be self-aware and conscious in a relationship. I do think if that's something you value as a person yourself and you've been to therapy and on your healing journey, I think that's super important.
I have also dated men who have quote unquote been on their healing journey and they've, done the ayahuasca and they've done all these things and they're so healed. And it's like, but you're still looking for a robot to do what you say and say
Literally.
what you do. And I'm like, that what's not hitting here? And then they can say, because it is true that they are going into therapy, but I'm in therapy. Oh, I go to therapy once a week. Oh, I have a life therapist. Oh, I've been going to therapy for 10 years. And I'm like...
I know. And then for that case, for example, it was crazy,
Our listeners, Jenny just went through a breakup last year. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
Safari, last thing was open was some girl that was naked. And, I was asking what's up with that. And, he told me, he said, oh, like... that girl sent me a DM, so I Googled her naked and nude.
Wait.
And even worse, another time he had Googled coworkers that he worked on set with, and he Googled all of them naked, and if there's nudes and nude leaked. So he looked them all up, and when I confronted him about how I think it's not normal to Google your coworkers naked or to Google the girls naked that you get DMs with, let alone entertain or open that in the first place. He said, it's normal that we are interested in other people while we are in a relationship and that it's nothing crazy or out of the norm to want to see other people naked. And so that was an example where he invalidated my experience because I said like, hey, this is a boundary of mine. I don't think it's normal or okay.
It's not okay to me.
It's not okay to me to look up. And also I think it makes them probably uncomfortable as well to know that your
Looking them up
coworker on set is like, Googling them naked.
Yeah.
And he was just invalidating in it, saying, like, this is something I don't want to discuss. I think it's normal.
A few things. So when they say, if you're nervous, imagine everyone in the crowd naked.
Mm-hmm.
So like
different type, I guess.
It's like, is that what you're doing, sir? Like what? Number one. Number two, watch a porno.
Yeah.
You want to see naked people? Watch porn.
Not the people you work with.
Not the people you work with.
Especially if you have intimate scenes with them and everything. Like,
Or that I even have to be around this person, knowing that you also want to see this person.
Yeah.
And it's different for, listen, was it guys too?
No, it was only girls.
Which is like, if it was like
the point,
it wasn't let's just see everyone naked in the crowd. It was not that.
No, it was like exactly what it was, and justifying that, and just in a way not validating my emotions and boundaries around how I didn't think that was okay.
I want to talk about that, the healthy versus the toxic.
Yeah.
Healing. And the healthy versus the toxic, quote unquote, doing the work.
Yeah.
Because you bring up a really interesting thing, that there are people actively reading all the books, doing all the things, saying this and that. But for whatever reason, it's not getting through. Yeah. And then there's an angle of like, now I can just justify my behavior by going through therapy, by reading this book, by doing this, by doing that. I can justify my behavior.
Yeah.
Do you believe that there's a level of almost narcissism? And I hate to use that word because I know it's so overused.
It's a Pandora box, guys.
I hate to use that word, but it's like, when I really am like, damn, I was wrong. Like, even when I'll read certain things and I'll see certain things, even like ex-boyfriends, like I want to call them and be like, my bad. Like that was on me. And I see that now. I didn't see it at the time. I didn't see it then.
Yeah.
But I have heard so many people say, well, and then again, a justification. Mm-hmm. And I can back it up because this person said this or whatever. So is there a thing of toxic healing? Is that a thing?
I think, there's healthy and toxic ways to deal with a breakup and heal from a breakup. I wonder if toxic healing is a word in itself, but we can talk about toxic first and then about
or like toxic growth, even like
toxic growth. I love that.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, that's so great.
Right?
I love that. Yeah. So like, we can stay with those examples. I think like, one of the things that are showing that you're not really interested in deeply healing and moving on from something is doing unhealthy coping mechanisms, right? Like going into heavy drinking or just daily drinking or any type of substance abuse, like distracting yourself, just not, every time your emotions and your sadness and your grief comes up to just like push it away and be like, no, it's too painful to process, right? Like every time you don't deal with a healthy way with your emotions, you build up emotional residue and it will come up and show up at a certain point of time in your life. And even, as we talked about, with my ex, and which is, my most recent breakup. Mm-hmm. And you'd think that person has done enough inner work to not, like talk to girls 24 to 48 hours after the breakup, right? And let alone things we had set up haven't even been canceled officially. Yeah.
You guys were together for how long with you and your ex?
3.5 years. Yeah.
Wow. 24 hours?
24 to 48 hours. Let's be blunt. Wedding hasn't even been canceled. And, I see he had already reached out to two different girls.
Wow.
2 different girls. And
how did you see that?
So we were having a conversation 2 days, or let's say a day and a half later. And he asked me to tell him the time. I looked on the phone and there were already 2 messages from random numbers or random names. And it was funny because I immediately asked him and I was like, really? I was like, there has to be, I think respect in some ways, like, and be respectful of the relationship. But, his response was, he said, you're right. I can't be alone. I can't be alone. I can't stand to be by myself. And, in that moment, it just like hit me. It hit me just seeing like, wow, this man just like, has these deep insecurities and just can't be by himself. He so deeply can't be by himself or sit with this pain to process this by himself, but needs this validation of other women knowing, oh, I'm still valuable. Like I still can get women. I can reach out to everyone who's just, in a 5-mile radius.
Right.
And it's so sad to think like people like that are in the dating pool. Like
Right.
there are men like him out there that are not dating for genuine connection and love, but just because they're so afraid to be alone and they feel lonely so quickly. So they just they search that hit of validation to be with someone, no matter who.
But do you think that is love to them?
No, I don't think in that moment he thinks it's love. I think he thinks, oh my God, I can't sit with that emotion of like being alone, of feeling unlovable. And maybe they will equate that attention that they would get from someone because like, oh, they like me. Great. Okay, I can set something up. I feel like calm, right? I'm confirmed that I'm worthy.
Oh, no. Sorry. I'm sorry. No, what I mean is you mentioned some men can't, they're not dating for love.
Yeah.
They're dating for the validation from
gotcha.
a person.
Yeah.
So it's like, but for some people who haven't healed that part of them, that validation mixed with maybe chemistry is love
totally.
to them.
100%. I do think some men are aware of the fact that that is not love and they are getting their need for attention met. But I do think some might think it's love.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's the big difference in how, my healing journey went.
Mm-hmm.
And,
what did you do after your breakup?
So for me, I think one of the most important things is that I really let myself die to the present moment. And it sounds probably a little abstract at first when you hear it, but what I mean with that is I let myself fully feel the insane grief that I felt in that moment, the insane sadness, the pain and the emotions that came up with not only grieving the relationship and the person, but also the future I had created in my mind.
Yes.
And I really had no agenda of like, okay, I need a timeline to be better, or this has to feel a certain way, or I just was like, fuck this. Like, it's okay, even as someone who's, done the work, has like 3 degrees in mental health, and, like it happens to everybody, right? And so for me, it was like, I have to take time off. I have to grieve. I went home to my family in Germany, like took time to process everything. So what I did was ultimately like being surrounded by friends and family who genuinely cared for me.
Yes.
And then really, as I said, leaning into the grief is the biggest and quickest way to overcome it. So I really like sat down, I processed, I journaled, I cried, I talked. I like tried to give myself plenty of outlets to process the, the sadness that came up within me, and like also the disappointment in myself, believing in a person that, wasn't who they were at the end of the day, but also, like not trusting my intuition and seeing like, oh, I have not trusted my intuition in so many ways too. And, but also for the person. So just dying to the present moment and letting everything come up without an agenda was the best thing I could have done
for your
in this breakup, for my mental health and for healing. And like, I remember the days where I felt like I'm rising like a phoenix out of the ashes because I let myself crumble, literally crumble and fall apart. And like one day I just like regained, I was like, oh my God, I'm cried out. Like
I'm done.
I've done so, like I felt it so much. And then I just like saw things in my environment align. And I'm just like, wow, everything's for some reason still beautifully aligning. And I saw more and more how much this part of my journey was meant to happen. Like even all the mishaps, all the pain, everything, it just felt like it was supposed to happen. And it felt like just an important part of my journey, in that I just reminded myself of this deep belief that I hold, that everything is happening for me.
Yep.
At any given time, even if it doesn't look or feel like it in that moment, because, universe, God, and whoever you connect with to the deepest has a bird's eye view on your situation and knows there's something better for you out there. So I really started to just deepen that trust and rebuild and, like process the healing, and just was able to also help and dial into the women in my world that I support in their mental health, to just help them on a deeper level and empathize with them even more. So in a way, it's been like such a part of my deepest level up journey yet. So yeah.
Ooh. Okay. I have some follow-ups for that. What you found out about your ex and how he needed this validation.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is you were in a relationship. I mean, you met him and then you guys got into a relationship.
Yeah.
So this is not something that you quote unquote knew.
Yeah.
Right? But you mentioned not trusting your intuition. Was there a time or a moment or, things that were happening that was a red flag and you were like, oh, well, whatever? When did you first feel that in the 3.5 years?
I do think what I mentioned earlier with the first DMs, that was definitely one of the first times I was like,
Yeah.
And then the second time, though, I'd say it's almost a funny story. It wasn't sad, it was a funny story. But so he had a good friend, and his good friend has a girlfriend, ex-girlfriend now. And let's call her Anna. Anna and I meet up while she's in Los Angeles for coffee. And we have fun coffee, we have a great time. And she sits me down and says, hey, there's something I want to tell you. And I'm just like, oh my God, what is it? I'm a very positive, vibrant, trusting person. So I'm like, yeah, what is it? And she's like, yeah. And then she says, well, my friend, let's call her Stephanie. Anna tells me that Stephanie
is her good friend.
Stephanie is her good friend.
Okay, got it.
Stephanie has exchanged text with my ex-fiance. And she says, they've been talking here and there, and I kind of feel like you should know that because she recently hit me up and asked me, isn't he engaged? Why is he sending me messages? I don't get it. And she was like, well, I know her, so let me get in touch with her and talk to her. So that was the conversation she was seeking with me to kind of, gain clarity on that, and then I see the messages, right? And they're just kind of like, hey, are you awake? Let's FaceTime. I miss your face, with like a smiley face
her
behind
that,
his
text
to her were like, are you free to FaceTime at night? And that was when he was away on set, filming something I obviously didn't know. Right. Like miss your face, all those things. And then I just was so shook, when I heard that, and I just needed a moment to process that, because I just was like, wow, that's not the man that's not the man I know, and that's not the man I thought, he is.
Right.
And she tells me that she sees how he treated other women before, and that, he's had a reputation of not being the best man. And I'm just kind of like, brushing it off with the fact that he's changed in a way.
And you're engaged,
a little in denial there, so pretty rough in a lot of ways. And then I, go home and I confront him. And, the first thing again, and this was just such a theme, the first thing was the, not validating my emotions, like immediately brushing it off and being like, what are you talking about? That's a friend of mine.
Oh.
And I'm just like, okay, we've been together for quite a while, like you've never, ever once mentioned this friend. And I say, have you hooked up with this friend?
Right. Who's Stephanie?
He's like, yeah, who's Stephanie? He's like, yeah, we have, we've dated each other. I'm like, okay, so there's a friend of yours that you have hooked up with and dated, have never mentioned to me, and he, by the way, he doesn't know yet
that you have had this conversation.
He doesn't know yet that I had the conversation, let alone know what he said to her.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And so he, he just says like, this is ridiculous. Like, she's a friend. Am I not allowed to have friends that you don't know about? Like gets all in my face, and I'm just like trying to stay calm, use my coping skills. I say, let's take a moment to take a deep breath. like focus on like just not getting too heated and process it somehow.
Right.
And then we reconnect after that. And then he's like, I'm really sorry. I can so see how this, and I was like, this is good. And, like he says, I'm really sorry. I can see how this comes across, weird, but I promise you that we're just, there was nothing and we're just friends and it's just a friendly talking back and forth, and he was like, I will literally show you the messages,
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, like, fine. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
He showed you
so he pulls up his phone and he shows me the messages. And they're like, hey, how are you? Hope all is well. Very like superficial. And I'm just like, the fuck? He erased the messages that were in between to make it look PG-13. He erased like miss your face. He erased like let's FaceTime, all of that. He erased. And he doesn't obviously still know that I have seen these messages already that, he sent her. So I say, like, swear on your life. This is all you've ever talked. And he puts his hand on his chest and says,
no,
baby,
no,
swear on my life.
No.
I swear to God, this is all that ever has been there. And I'm just like, as much as, emotional regulation skills, I just lose it. I'm just like, this is fucking ridiculous. I'm sitting here engaged to a man who's lying and swearing and lying into my face about other women. And I'm just like, what am I going to do? So yeah, I tell him, I was like, I know this is not the truth. And he's just like, oh, damn, like he's almost like just feeling caught,
Yeah.
And I'm like just feeling so gaslit and like invalidated by this whole experience,
Wow.
And that was just ridiculous, like that level of, again, someone who's doing the inner work, so perceived, like of lying and not being truthful, and that was really, really hard to see, as you said, like, because I did see a lot of ways where my intuition showed up, like even before I met with her, I was like, sometimes I had this nudge of something's off, something's off, or again, like when I saw it the first time. So I was deliberately ignoring, as I said, with my positive, happy attitude, I think in some ways, my intuition that this man isn't truthfully and honest. And I think I was, doing myself wrong by ignoring that and just carrying on being like, people can change. And he promised me, obviously, there then too.
Obviously.
That would never happen again, and that was wrong, all of that. Like, what are you going to do when you get caught like that? Like, obviously you have to apologize.
Yeah.
So so like a
Wow.
lot of things where I saw, and this is just a few things, but yeah, just seeing that there was a lot of intuitive nudges where I should have listened to it earlier and like let go instead of trying to want to fix or make it better. And I think a lot of women get stuck in relationships where they want to fix it, want to help it, because it's such a inherently feminine quality to want to nurture and to want to repair. And I think sometimes we get lost in relationships where we want to fix and repair, where we have to listen to our intuition and like up our self-worth and say, hey, I got to listen to this. This is not right for me. And the thing that is meant for me and is aligned for me is out there.
Yes. And what I take from what you're saying and knowing you and, even you talking about, even you having this conversation with him where, I mean, you better than me, girl, because I would have tried to tear his head off probably. I would have been like, I have the receipts. But
Receipts are receipting.
You said, let's take a moment. Let's take a moment apart. Like, you have so many tools in your toolbox as someone who works with women who are doing these things. And I will say that what's interesting is, life happens to all of us. Just because you're a therapist, that's because you're a psychologist, that's because you're, just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you won't break your leg. Like,
That's damn right.
Do you know what I mean? Like life is going to happen no matter what. And I think because you do this work, God wants us to grow. And because you said, I'm going to do this work, it's like you have to not only go through it, but you go through it and you get through it.
Yeah.
And I see someone who, I mean, I've never seen anyone deal with something like this like you have. So I really commend you on that. But it's the knowing that you have, and even our mutual friend, it's like this knowing that she has about herself, that she knows that she is protected no matter what. And I think trying to strengthen your intuition.
Yeah.
How do you do that now that you've been through this?
Yeah. I think one of the most important things is learning what a full body yes feels like.
Okay.
Learning how to listen to your intuition versus your anxiety. So you'll see what I'm talking about, this, your intuition and that voice of your intuition is calm. It comes from knowing, right? It's like, this doesn't feel right, or don't do that. It's not safe to do X, Y, Z. Your intuition is more calm. Your anxiety and your attachment is preoccupied. It's like repetitive. It's loud. It comes with like, an uncomfortable gut feeling, right? So learning to honor your intuition versus your anxiety, because sometimes it's even like, I want to hold on to this, is your anxiety and not your intuition, right?
Yes.
Your intuition never says, this is the right thing, when I'm seeing I'm being disrespected, right? That was not my intuition. That was my anxiety. That was my, oh my God, like I can make things work even though it's not right, right? My intuition was like, you got to get stepping, girl, right? In that moment where I didn't listen to it. So I think like learning to honor that calm inner voice that comes up, as hard as it is sometimes to walk away from situations, is key to honoring it and following those nudges, and then taking inspired action, right? Like taking inspired action based on your intuition versus your anxiety.
What was it about your ex that made you fall for him in the beginning?
It's a good question. I think what really drew me to him is that we had a lot of things in common, like a common love for nature and animals, and a very big playfulness to the whole relationship, right? And there was a lot of playfulness and lightness, and
Felt light.
And I'm very, like very playful in that way, and competitive. So like there was a lot of fun things, and like also though, like, the same vision and goals, where to live and what to want in life. However, it also was, like a lot of it was in the pandemic, right? And so in the pandemic, you stop then focusing on others, and like actually there was, no like chance to evaluate others at the same time, if that makes sense, because it was the pandemic and you kind of dialed down to one person, and that was kind of it, if that makes sense. So growing close during the pandemic, and I feel like there were so many people that did that in the pandemic, that they just had this opportunity to grow closer than ever, that they usually don't have, because people have lives, works, travels, everything, and that was just, a different time, I feel like, for sure.
Oh, yes. So with this happening to you, you are a psychologist, you work in psychology, you deal with the brain, emotions, mental states. How do you think just life in general, not just like your relationship, but, when you started your journey and why you wanted to start your journey versus now, what has changed for you?
I think I started my journey in love for psychology because I was so interested in human behavior, how attachment works, how we form romantic relationships, how some people succeed in life and how some don't. I thought that was so interesting. So I was very intrigued by that, and also by the biology of the brain. I think it's so fascinating. And I loved it. And I did my first master's in clinical psychology and psychotherapy, and my second master's in marriage and family therapy. And it's just so interesting to see human behavior, how it forms, mostly in our childhood, right? And how we grow up and how we perceive our worthiness and love. And I think what has changed to this date is just like, I'm so committed and so dialed in into like helping women to see that there's so much more for them, right? That they're loving relationships and self-love and healing and growth and leveling up just available to them. And I think to everyone, not only women, but I niched down on women.
Yeah, obviously.
But I just, because I think the difference is I'm so committed and I'm so into seeing the process.
Yeah.
Like, it makes me so excited when I hear what are the amazing things that have changed in the life of a client.
Yeah.
And not client, but also women in general as a collective. I just love seeing that. And I think that if we all heal and evolve together, we can raise, the vibration as a collective in so many ways.
Yeah.
Healed people, healed people, heal other people. That's
yes.
right. So,
and hurt people, hurt other people.
That's damn right.
Yep. That is so true. And I will say what's so beautiful for me to see is that you stopped this, like it didn't happen. And I think if you didn't have all these tools in your toolbox, you would have gotten married and you may have had a kid and you may have gotten divorced. Definitely. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
And you stopped that. And I think who you are and how you help other women see their self and their self-love, that is so important because it starts with you. I think even the reason why I asked you what you thought about him when you first met him is because I believe that, hearing you and our mutual friend Kendall talking about your husbands, like how you're going to manifest your husbands. It's like you were such in a loving position. He was lucky that he found you in that position, in my opinion, because you were ready to love someone who almost fit the makeup, if that makes sense, right? And he played that role.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's beautiful that you guys were giving each other the same thing. You guys were the puzzle piece for the moment.
Yeah.
And you kept growing and you realized that this is actually not what I need.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't say I stopped it per se in a way of acting in the moment of my intuition.
Yes.
But that would be something I would honor definitely in the future, right? With no matter who you meet. And I do think I'm still just exactly where I'm meant to be. And everything that has been happening in my life has been feeling really, really aligned and really been showing me like, oh my God, this is the reason why you had to go through this. This is the reason why you had to beat the wrong one in order to meet the right one.
Yeah.
So I do think, honoring that and like learning how to embody the sentence that everything is happening for me will change your life.
Yep. Everything is happening for me, not against me.
That's damn right.
I 100% agree. What's next for you, Jenny?
What's next for me? So I want to continue to focus on my journey like I have been. And my intentions and the words for this year for me are trust, love, and success.
Yes.
And I've been really aligning myself with all of those happening. And I have deep trust in my, romantic relationships. And I have deep trust in my business growing in a way and helping even more women around the globe. And I'm just trusting that I take care of myself and that I'm healthy and that I'm just surrounded by the utmost loving people with the right intention. So I think just, again, trusting my gut, taking aligned actions, and being around the right people is all I need.
Ugh, amazing. I want you to give me, in your opinion, one dating absolutely do, one dating absolutely don't for our listeners.
Okay. My do's for dating is not emotionally committing to a man before you see consistency in action.
Amen.
Number one.
Okay.
And our don't is playing Barbarella the Builder and investing in potential versus what you're actually seeing in a man.
Yes. Okay, those are some gems. The other gems, just to recap for my peoples, chemistry versus compatibility. Look for compatibility before the chemistry. Boom. Connection and consistency over time. Wow. That did something to me. It did something to me. I'm taking it, I'm packing it in my bag, and I'm wearing with me everywhere. It's literally coming with me everywhere. Thank you for that. Also, the switching it up. You're feeling mundane. You don't want to swipe anymore. Go to the bar. Go to the tennis court. Go to the basketball court. Switch it up, baby. Switch it up. If you live in New York, go on the West Side Highway. Apparently, there's lots of men there all the time. So that's it. So can you tell everyone where to find you? Your Instagram is amazing. You do have a podcast coming out, right?
I do have a podcast coming out. I'm so excited to share my podcast. You'll hear a lot of more fun, juicy stuff and valuable lessons. It's all about self-love, relationships, and unapologetically sharing my perspective on life, love, and relationships. You can find me under @Jenny Meinen. So Jenny and then MEINEN. On Instagram, I'm active there. And then you'll also find the pod on YouTube. So I'm excited to see you over there.
Amazing. And I just want to say that personally, these are the people I want to be around. These are the people I want to learn from. These are the people I want to have on my podcast. People who are actually going through it. I just don't want to hear a talking head telling me to do this, do this, do this. I went through this. And so now I can tell you, do this, do this, do this, right? Ooh, makes me happy. All right. Thank you so much for being here with us, sharing with us, being vulnerable with us. It's very important that you feel good. And sharing your story. You know, we're going to get there. We're going to get there, girl.
It takes a lot to open up, but I do think if this just helps one person, you know, to like get on the right path, and this is the nudge they need it, the mission is accomplished.
Yep. Trust that intuition.
This was awesome.
Trust the
That's
intuition.
damn right.
Yep. That's the overall essence the gem that I'm getting from this the most is you really got to trust. We're excited for your journey. I'm excited for your journey. And everyone out there, thank you for being with us. I am also excited for your journeys out there. Please, if you have any questions or anything, write in. Let me know what you're thinking. And we will see you next time. Thanks for listening to Hidden Gems with me, your host, Natasha Parker. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It really helps grow our budding community. Follow me on IG @Natasha Parker and the show @Gems with Natasha. Hidden Gems with Natasha Parker is produced by Gotham Production Studios.